Ritu, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for having me.
Said a happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. I'm glad it's the end of the week.
There are some weeks when you don't want them to end, and there are some weeks it's okay to have a little break in the action. Whether it's been an awesome week or a slow week, we need time to reset.
That's right. I have a great book that's waiting for me. My book club's reading it, and I'm hooked. It's 700 pages, so it's going to take me about 3 months to finish, I swear to God. But it's one of those books where you actually don't want it to finish. I'm excited.
Might I ask what the book is about?
So it's this author called Abraham Burgess, and he writes about India in the 1900s. And, it's funny, the name completely is, I can't even remember what it is. It'll come to me. But it's 3 different stories. There's a young girl that gets forced into child marriage. There's a European man that wants to be a surgeon and comes to India to learn how to. And then there's a Swedish man that's an old surgeon that kind of brings the stories together. It's one of those books. It's just the author. You really have to slow down for the author. He wants you to slow down. He talks about every leaf on every tree. So you can't just rush through it. You have to slow it down. 30 pages a day. That's as much as I can do. But it's fascinating. It's really cool.
Talk about character development. They don't make them the way they used to.
No, they don't. I don't think this is one of the ones that can be made into a movie, but watch them try.
I'm tempted to keep going, but I think we should shift to the podcast. And for those that have been following this season of signal-activated growth, we've been talking quite a bit about the activation of dormant leads, the middle of the funnel. And Ritu is going to bring a very unique perspective on this question. We're going to talk about turning conversational data into revenue, which is even as I'm saying it, I can imagine 5 years ago, conversational data into what? We don't have the manpower to do this. How many people are we going to need? And without AI, many of these conversations would be impossible. Now, for many listening, they're somewhere along we need to work with AI, to many are, of course, working with the copilots. Some are experimenting beyond. Ritu, you've been on the bleeding edge of this thing for a minute. But I think, how many years have you been a part of I'm throwing in automation, ML, and AI.
It's been a while. So it started off with Automation Anywhere back in the day when RPA and intelligent automation was the biggest thing, right? It's back in 2018. And that's really where I got my foundations in AI and automation. Since then, I've been in lots of different software companies that are disrupting existing spaces. So think about a log for direct mail marketing. This is, a space that was in dire need for automation. You still were done through printers. So think about the number of direct mail you get from Verizon, from AT&T, from all of these consumer brands. Imagine the back office work that's needed to get this stuff done. And you have great customer signals, right, in all of your CRMs. How do you then take that customer signal, create direct mail, and send it to somebody's mailbox when your inbox is just completely full? So I remember there was a furniture company that would send direct mail using Lob. Basically said, hey, we noticed that you were checking this item out. Would you like to buy it in visual, in print? So seeing a picture of something on a postcard, again, middle funnel, was tremendous.
You stand out.
You do. Especially when everybody else is sending emails, right? So that was a big one. I then moved to product board, which is actually now moving into AI. They're building software for product managers to be able to build the right thing. Again, taking signals from different sources, Zendesk, from tickets, from others, to be able to help product managers build the right features at the right time. And then observe, which I think is culminating the way we look at customer intent, and then using agentic AI to automate this customer intent. So think about all the conversations in the contact center. When you release a new feature, you release a new product, people either love it or hate it. And you can find out from the conversations in the contact center. In the customer service realms, everything that's really great about your company, the loyalties or not, or lack of, the friction in the process, all of that is hidden in these contact center conversations. And like you said, if you had a team of, whatever, 100,000 people to listen to every call after it happened, yes, you could take action on all of it. And which is where AI comes in, right? Being able to take these signals, both in terms of, accuracy and at the scale that they're present in the contact center, and then make them actionable, either complete automation or giving it to people or analytics, to be able to make enterprises better, make products better, make marketing better, make sales and churn better, is what we're looking at.
It's a capability that kind of blows your mind. And I mean, for AI, across the different use cases, although I'm going to just quickly say what I don't think it is before we continue on what it is today. I don't think, about a year and a half ago, I was the freak out mode of this entire industry is moving jobs. There were stages that I think almost everyone, specifically in my audience, marketers, go through. And I think many have gone through some of the anger stages, denials, that we've gotten past those. Yes. The more you understand, the more you see it as a new capability. Now it's a capability unlike any other, like ever in history. But it isn't going to solve everything. You're going to need to focus on specific use cases. So Ritu, for someone that's been on AI bleeding edge, let's just kind of what it isn't before we continue with what it is.
It isn't a way to solve every problem. So there's so many things that are not happening at scale. So think about bespoke conversations. Your contact center's on the phone with somebody for an hour. Chances are it's not something that's happening at scale, right? You need that human touch. You need problem solving beyond what AI is capable of today. Now, 10 years later, I don't know where it's going to be. But that's what it's not. It's not capable of solving every problem. It's not capable of having a conversation today with your 10-year-old, right? Because it's probabilistic. It's going to treat your 10-year-old like an adult. It doesn't understand that the sound that's coming on the other end is of a child. So being able to protect your kids from this is a big one. It's not that. It can do really well at understanding the intent of a call as long as it's an adult and as long as it is in the realm that it knows, and then either solving the problem or passing it off to a human if its programming says it cannot do it. But that's the piece. It cannot solve each and everything.
Thank you. And I really like that. Jobs that can't be done at scale by humans. I've actually kind of heard that in kind of different settings and chopped up, but hearing it together just so spot on. Jobs that can't be done by humans at scale. Welcome AI.
Yes. Exactly.
Not every job, but some jobs.
Exactly.
So
you don't want that, right? You don't want a small piece of AI that you're spending a lot of money on, right? Power, chips, imagine that, to run one thing once a year. It's just not possible, or you shouldn't.
And I also think it was back on when SaaS were just becoming a thing, right? You took it out of the cloud. Would you imagine an enterprise, hey, we should build our own CRM? No, right? We should build our own SAP. That would be ludicrous. That would be ludicrous. So now I think in a similar fashion, right? Ritu, would you agree with my thinking of comparing the SaaS to the moment we're in now?
Absolutely. If you think about agents, right? They're a way to make, they're the different, it's a different kind of software, but that's what it is. Now, if each and every person created their own bespoke versions of Salesforce, that's like, the best way to describe that is that's like Excel, going back to Excel and almost taking a step back and saying, I'm going to do this my way in Excel. So that's only valid to me. And nobody's there to fix this thing. And you know how software works. It's set it and forget it. Companies, however large you are, you don't really have teams of people to keep on these agents and continue to kind of keep them motivated and sort of current. So it becomes a set and forget it. There's no company out there that's fixing these things for you. So if you're going to create an agent, for one thing, sure, go right ahead and do it, but it's going to be a very expensive proposition. Each person is going to have their own version of CRMs. Each person is going to have their own versions of Marketo. That's not the right thing to do. Now, you can create agents to make it simpler to use Marketo or use Salesforce. That works. Just make sure there are teams that are assigned to these things to keep them current.
And a little disclaimer for those of you that are watching a bunch of YouTube videos where it's like N8N and it's got everything figured out for you. Just trust me, between my own experiences and a bunch of folks that I've talked to, and once you get into it, you realize they're selling YouTube videos from entertainment standpoint.
Yes, this is
Just, right?
It's madness. How much my 12-year-old believes that, hey, today I can just create any software myself, Mom, we never have to buy a thing again. That's the point. You won't watch the YouTube video till they have a very strong point of view on either end. Just like politics.
If you believe that, you should probably buy the ab machine where you get instant abs for $49.99 a month.
Oh, that doesn't work. Crap, mine's in the mail.
Because the videos of showing you how to build an agent that actually performs are going to be so long that no one's going to watch them, because they require so much work and effort, from plumbing to fine-tuning to iterations to bugs to resets. It's a long, just like SaaS. Building. All right. I'm going to resist. Go ahead.
No, and last thing, it's sort of like, it's a lot of fun. I would encourage people to build agents. Just don't deploy them in production. Leave that to the experts. Something simple like when you want to find out your bank balance, Adam, you call the company. You expect them to validate who you are before they give you your bank balance. Now, an AI agent that's LLM driven is probabilistic. You yell at it enough, it's wanting to please you. That's just the way LLMs are. You yell at it enough, and it's going to go straight to giving you your balance. It's not going to validate who you are. So companies like ours, our work have, a lot of engineers deployed to make sure that doesn't happen. But you build something yourself with less than experts, you're going to run into a lot of issues. I mean, go right ahead, learn, get good at it, don't deploy it in production. That's all.
All right, and that's another topic. It's like we're queuing up. We could have gone further in the book. We could go further here, but I'm going to try to get us back on. And I'm sorry that I'm just excited about these topics. So, Ritu, let's take us back to lots of data from conversations. This data is incredible. You could have all kinds of lenses from, as you said, product perspective, from brand perspective, from marketing and sales perspective, retention. Holy moly, how many perspectives there could be. So what are some of the highest value signals that you're finding are buried in these conversations that are creating, remarkable value for organizations that now get to extract it?
So, I won't go into details about each one, but broadly, it'll be 3 different kinds of signals. You have customer intent signals, you have customer emotions, and then you have friction in the process. So think about intent signals, right? Why is a customer calling? So the best example I like to give is the customer comes in and says, I need to change my address. Versus he says, I'm moving, I want to transfer my plan. So while he's using the same words, the intent is completely different. One's asking to change the address, the other one's asking to transfer the plan. The agent or the whoever's listening to that needs to understand the intent. So if you just come in and say change address, you lost the other side, right? The intent is different off of each call. So that intent, whatever the customer called about, is the first set of signals you need to get. Whether it's from an agent, an AI agent, doesn't matter. Then the second piece is emotion. How does the customer feel about your brand or your outcome? Is this positive? Is this negative? Is there loyalty? Is there churn risk? So those aspects, those kinds of signals, the emotional signals, are the second piece that you have to capture. And the third one is for people that really want to streamline that process. When a customer calls in, how many times are they being transferred? How many times did they say, hey, I'm going to switch tools? How many times did the agent need to switch tools? How much friction is there in the process between when a customer calls and the company is able to solve that problem? Again, a big indicator of whether a customer is going to stay with the company or maybe move. So between intent, emotion, and friction, those are the kinds of signals we need to be able to pull out. Now, you can, again, a lot of this depends on what you're trying to solve. If friction in the process is not important to you and you're a brand new company and it's sort of like it's a small group of people, you're really focused on revenue. So that becomes your intent signals. Is there a churn intent, an upsell intent, a cross-sell intent? Those are the signals that you look at first. And then your emotional signals are, hey, we're seeing a lot of problems with products and churn and, kind of brand or competition. Then you really focus on the emotional signals. And then if you're trying to fix process, you focus on more of the friction signals.
So as we think about turning conversations into revenue, it's important to understand the outcome that you're aiming for.
Yes.
And then you're building in the filters, right, or the lenses. Because for me, I think about these conversations in this context as almost like a fire hose of information.
Exactly.
So how do you, it sounds like you need to figure out what you want to capture and then what to leave behind, because we understand that the context window with AIs is kind of problematic. If too much gets in there, it gets wild. Is that right?
That's exactly it. You have to sequence it. You can't do all of it at once. I mean, imagine taking all of this and putting it in the CRM. So now people stop reading it at all or stop going there at all. Most companies will start with revenue signals. It's just, if you're going to start from scratch, you haven't done this before, focus on revenue, focus on that. If your goal is, say, agent coaching, like you're having a lot of problems with agents, focus on empathy gaps, focus on how they greet customers, focus on any misses in compliance. If your goal, like I said earlier, is process improvement, focus on how many times the customer is being transferred, focus on any long silences on the agent side, focus on compliance issues. Those are the kinds of things that you kind of really focus on, depending on what your business process is. Now, what I will always say is anything has those really long tail call types, what we mentioned earlier, bespoke calls, ignore that stuff. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about anything that's not happening at scale. But for the stuff that's happening at scale, just focus on the specific business outcome you're trying to solve. Because you can get as much data as you want. It's just what can you act on today.
Ocean. I mean, in this world, whatever you're doing now with AI, we've got teams passing back and forth now books. Like, you want a book? I'll write you a book on this topic. Here you go. The question now is, how do you distill to what matters most? So now what happens? You figured out what data is important. And you said the next step is the CRM.
Yes.
What happens? How do you bring it into the CRM? How do you decide? And how does it become actionable on the other side?
So you take all of these signals, and let's just say you're really focused on revenue and churn, right? You take the cancellation intent, the upsell cues, the competitor mention, and then you really put it into one or two fields. Now, don't go insane. Don't create 10 custom fields in Salesforce and expect your sales guys to look all of them. Focus on one or two, and then focus on training them to look at it. So that's one thing. You provide them the information. The second piece is use AI to put this in front of the rep. So a lot of reps today, a lot of agents today have a copilot that's next to them. And this copilot can be very easily trained on the specific information you want them to focus on. So the copilot we're almost taking the guidance to them. So if sales doesn't look at those fields, those 2 or 3 fields, as soon as the customer calls, the copilot comes in and says, hey, based on the last 2 conversations with this guy, he's at risk of churn. Offer them this. Offer them a discount. Maybe ask to speak to somebody that's more senior. Create more relationships with people in that account. So being able to do that is important. The other thing you can do is tie these fields to workflows. So for example, in your churn field, if you basically come in and someone puts in, yes, this account is at risk of churn because of what we realized from the data, or the AI puts in that the account is at risk for churn, maybe there's a workflow that triggers the CRM, that triggers an email, maybe triggers a gift, maybe triggers a discount. So being able to create these automated workflows that trigger based on these fields is important. Being able to show this to the next rep that's talking is important. Being able to actually, populate it first is important.
I gotta ask, because now we're talking about an AI triggering a workflow that shows up in the real world. There are implications.
That's right.
Do you think we need a human in the loop there, or are we at a place in time where we could say, as long as certain the value of it or the exposure of it is not over a certain amount? How do you think about that?
So I think for B2C, when deal sizes are larger than X, and you can decide what X means. It could be $2,000, it could be $20,000, depending on the size of your company. You have to have a human in the loop. But imagine consumer companies where your average deal size might be $100 a month, and you have millions of those. Do you really have the time to go through each of these that get triggered? At a certain point, when you create that point, anything below that you trust AI to do. And anything above that you don't trust AI to do, where you need that human in the loop. So you have to decide what that sort of line is. Anything before this, I'm okay with the AI offering more discounts than necessary, because it doesn't affect me as much. So that's the stuff I want to happen at scale. This stuff I do want to happen at scale, but I absolutely want somebody in there because it's so critical to me right now.
Totally makes sense. And in that light, let's turn our attention to training AI, right? And that's partially where we had a good time talking about how videos make it easy. They bypass all of these steps. So for those who are listening, whether they're considering working with a vendor or they're thinking about building their own, when you think about training AI, and there's probably 1,000 different things to consider, what are a couple of the biggest bucket to give the highest return?
I think training it on the right things, and again, it's one of those, everybody says that you have to train it on the right data, but it really is, in the end, that don't worry about giving it everything it needs to know. Actually start from the bottom and say it needs to know this. Don't worry about whitelisting a big set of assets. Start from the bottom and say, for example, most of our customers will give it the specific CRM fields for a particular account. It'll give it product knowledge bases, policy docs, and any kind of publicly available pricing. So that means any answers that it gives you is based on just these. It's not making it up, because otherwise the LLM will make it up. If you open it up to the internet, it'll tell you anything you want to hear, to be quite honest.
Hallucinations, no problem.
It's set to please you. That's the whole thing. That's what we've all learned. It wants to get on your good side, at least for now.
Oh, we're not going there.
But it's sort of like, so it's pulling from vetted data. So don't start with whitelisting everything. Start with giving it one thing at a time. And then it kind of creates and pulls data from there. So what happens is then we're comfortable giving it more things to do and more jobs to automate, because it's going to automate right from there. And if it cannot answer, it'll move it to a human. So it won't make up data as you, won't make up answers, because you're really focused on a certain kind of data. And then, think about signals that come out of that. Marketing and sales can then use those signals, because it didn't make it up, right? It's important.
It's actually a realization I had a few months ago, that thinking about LLM, you could either say it is where you get the answers, or you can say it is how you get the answers from where you want them. And I think we really have moved from a world where give me the answers to now being like, okay, I got it. Like this can go all over the place. Instead, help me get the answers in the following context, domain, you are this, limit. Or further, if you're building your own agents, be responsible for where it gets the answers from. Own the knowledge base.
Exactly. Be very, very careful what you give it, because it's going to use it.
And you kind of touched on signals from external, because it seems to me that, and I have fun with this, I think we're still in the world where we send messages to people we don't know that are more personalized than people we do know. And that continues for the entire, we stop listening. Once they enter into our CRM, we're like, we're good. I don't need to know about you. Let me just tell you about me for the rest of the journey.
Exactly.
How do you think about bringing the signals together?
So this is the thing, right? I'll give you an example. Say a new CFO just joined a company, and suddenly your customer sentiment on the other end is changing, where everybody's asking for discounts and using the word churn. You know that something happened here, right? There's an external signal that tells me that a CFO is just joined, new CFO, who's likely looking to consolidate. And there's an internal signal where it tells me that customer sentiment just declined. Now I have to put these together, and I have to be able to. The AI needs to have this. Either the human or the AI needs to have both pieces of information to be able to say that this customer is at risk of churn. So your outreach at that point needs to pivot. Those two signals come together to pivot. I know we use the word ABM loosely, but for your, every company I'm hoping has their list of whatever, 2,000, 3,000, 300, whatever accounts. These are the kinds of signals you need to look at. Your eyes and ears need to open. You can either get this data from LinkedIn, you can get it from the AE, you can get it from a conversation, and you pull this together to be able to say, hey, account at risk of churn. But the AI, if you're using AI for it, the AI needs to be trained.
Let's talk about ABM. And I know there's a lot of skepticism of the title, whether you don't like the A in the ABM or the B or the M. It doesn't matter which ones you don't like, but ultimately we know what it is. We're talking about focusing on specific organizations because they're important to you, whether they want them to become your customers or you continue to work with them throughout their life cycle with you. Ritu, you just brought up a point that I think is one of the biggest uses of AI is external signals. You said continue listening, keep your eyes. You said keep your eyes open. So where are we keeping our eyes open? What should we be looking at when we think about ABM and signals? What's most important?
So ABM is a way of combining different signals to create microplays. That's all it is. Microplays for each account. So think about people that are in front of the account. It could be the AE, right? You need to get data out of the AE's head. It could be the people that are in your buyer committee that are engaging on LinkedIn or engaging on sources that are outside your website. They may be asking questions. They may be looking and researching on G2 Crowd, on some of these, on Gartner Peer Insights, on any of these websites to be able to figure out either the answers or researching a project that they may have. You also have people come to your website. You also have people look at content that you send them. You also have people open up emails. So all of these signals come together for us to be able to say, okay, something's going on in this account. Looks like they are looking for in our case, conversational AI tool. So now, between the AE, between all of the research that the account is doing, I need to figure out how I can engage with them. So as a company, we actually haven't engaged with them. There may be AE talking to one person in the account. That's not real engagement. It could be people researching website or external sources. Again, that's not real engagement. How do I create an opportunity in the system, right? An S2 op. How do I get to that? Now we, together with the SE, together with the AE, together with the marketing org, how do you figure out engaging the entire buyer committee? And those micro plays based on all the signals that you've had is important. I know, Adam, you really like wine because I've seen you comment on or ask a question on Reddit. So I'm going to send you a case and I'm going to invite you to my virtual wine tasting event. I know somebody else is on Economic Times a lot. So I'm going to make sure that I show an ad there to this person or to people like him, and make sure that there are there are ebooks and other content syndication content that they can download and then come to my website. I cannot make them. It's sort of like I can't make them engage because, well, I can't make them engage, but I have to be.
Period.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've tried, trust me. But we can continue to together create these small micro plays so that they are forced to kind of come into the little web that we knit, right? But it is, in the end, ABM is just a really focused way of doing marketing. Marketing's at a bigger scale, and ABM's at a smaller scale. That's all it is.
Well said. And when we think about ABM, one of the questions that I know is raging is about ownership of it, which is why I think there's a lot of skepticism to the M. There's almost like we can write like a little story about why not A, why not B, why not M, but it works together. Ritu, what's your view on the marketing owning ABM? Understanding it's a partnership, understanding it's got to work, but someone's got to be accountable for it. So what's your view on accountability for ABM?
So again, ABM is a micro play. So if you think of the final intent, the final intent is to engage the account. And sales gets paid on revenue, marketing gets paid on pipeline. ABM helps both, right? You have to be able to build the pipe, you have to be able to mature the pipe, and then you close that pipe. So ABM is a program that it actually can sit under anybody. I'm a CMO. I've always run it. So I have a bias that it sits with me because I'm able to kind of create the play and then bring in the right stakeholder. But it doesn't really matter because you're doing it together. In the end, there are 5 people that I want to engage so that I can move my deal from SS2 to SS3. And whether I'm orchestrating it with the salesperson, with events, with gifting, with email, with ads, it really doesn't matter. I just hold a lot more levers than the sales guy, which is why I think it's important for it to sit in marketing, but actually it can be anywhere.
Understood. And I also, one of the other arguments I have for why it should be in marketing world is because the marketer owns the message. They own the brand. And what's interesting is the more I talk about the middle of the funnel that sits in between the two worlds, and I get the reaction from their salespeople, it's ours. And then I get the marketers, it's ours. So I say to the sales folks, do you care about the message? Do you care about the content? They're like, no, just give me the meetings. Obviously, I'm oversimplifying, but I think the easiest way to think about it is it's the bottom of the funnel for the marketer and the top of the funnel for the sales.
Yes, it is.
Because it's their top of funnel, they're going to obviously have a lot less mind share to focus on it. They're talking about closing deals. They're talking about preparing for meetings and conferences. So let's give it to the marketer.
I agree. Again, I'm biased, right? It's I've never met a head of sales, my counterpart, that has wanted to own it. They've always wanted the meetings, and they're like, well, as long as it's working well, tell us what to do. You have most of the levers. So we have the sort of the levers to pull to be able to get the meeting to a certain stage, an opportunity stage. But it's also really good at maturity. Even once it's gone down a path, for pipe maturity, ABM's the best because people stop responding in SS4. What do? You reach back out and you start the process again. Around negotiation, all of those tactics need a certain kind of ABM. You're negotiating with somebody that may also be considering something else. So at that point, the ABM process sends out a specific, something you may have done with Forrester that talks about the advantage of us versus somebody else, or why you pay more for a certain kind of tool. So all of this is just account-based marketing is how do I get this account to close? Different pieces, different times, and different people.
Roger that. And at the risk of us slipping into another big topic, do you think there's a substantial difference between ABM and PLG versus, the sales-led motions? Is it if you have a product and to me it seems like ABM is very different in those two worlds. But I'm curious, what do you think?
So PLG is a developer or sort of a technical-led motion that allows the end consumer to experience the product before they are ready to engage with you. So it's almost like, as ABM is super hands-on and actually very expensive because you're looking at each account separately, PLG is more of a scaled motion that's cheaper because you're enabling somebody till they're ready to be an opportunity to run the process themselves.
Exactly.
So completely flipped.
Completely flipped.
Now, once they become an op, then they're not running the PLG anymore, right? Then we're not running PLG. Then at that point, the sales guy handholds it. And then your pipe maturity could still include ABM. Because the guy that tested your product is very different, I promise you, from the guy that's going to pay for your product. You
That's why I
still
said.
have ABM. Yes.
So then, would you say an ABM starts post a PLG but pre SLG motion, or that now blends
No,
into,
not necessarily. It could be at the same time. It could be after also.
depends on the account size, depending on who the and what your PLG is, because that could be multiple users.
Exactly.
Much harder to get there with a product, as we know, to get to that much harder,
Yes, it is.
but then much easier if you nail it.
Yeah, much cheaper too.
Much cheaper. I'm looking at the time and I was like, oh my, no, I'd like a, we just started. Well, we didn't just start. It's been so much fun. Ritu, before I let you go, and just huge thank you for taking the time. I know you've got a lot going on in your world. What advice would you give to a marketing leader that is post the denial and anger and those phases and they're already in co-pilot mode? But yet they are contemplating, how do I bring this inside my organization at scale? Maybe they're not the ones overly concerned in the next couple of years that jobs are going away. Instead, it's about a systematic approach on how to be more efficient, be more productive. What advice would you give them?
Start with the lowest complexity use cases. That's all it is. Most of us started with content, right? Just basic using AI agents for content, getting signals from the lowest possible things. Start with that, get people comfortable. Change management is the biggest problem in AI today. It's not the use case, it's not the implementation, it is trying to get people to adopt. So start with the lowest complexity. Don't start with revsure.ai, or don't start with massive ABM implementations that include AI. Start with the lowest possible, work your way up. The high complexity ones take a lot of time, take a lot of change management, take a lot of people, and you'll frustrate yourself. But get some quick wins, just like they say about everything else, before you move up to medium and high complexity.
Quick wins. Folks who are listening, Ritu, where can folks that are listening to this episode find you?
Where would they find me? LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining, and hope you get to read the book quickly.
I will do, and it's called Covenant of Water. I just remember.
Covenant of Water.
That's right.
Not sponsored by.
Not sponsored. No.
All right. Thanks for joining. Over and out.
Thanks.
Bye, Ritu.